G'day, let me tell you who's going to win the 2026 World Drivers' Championship and who's going to struggle. Here are my predictions. I think we're in for a ripper 2026 season, and straight up, I'm picking Max Verstappen as second this year. Who do I think's going to win? I'll get to that shortly. But in the interim, for those 50% of you not subscribed yet, please take a minute to press this button. Now, unlike last year, we've got little idea which car is going to be strong this year because there's a whole new set of regulations and nobody knows who's going to be able to best pick the loopholes in those. It could be Audi, perhaps even the rookie team Cadillac. We're all in the dark, and there's no guarantee that McLaren will get it right as they did last year and dominate the competition. Now, in last year's video, I actually picked the championship winner, Lando Norris. Did I also predict the Constructors champion? No, miles off. I picked Ferrari, and of course, they were miserable last year. So let's look at what I've picked for this year, and I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm picking in 22nd place, Franco Colapinto. Alpine is a basket case. They struggled last year, and I can't see them any better in a year with brand new cars. And because Franco was shaded last year by Pierre, I'm going to put him at the back of the field. But I will go out on a limb here and say that he will score points twice. Second last, I've gone with Valtteri Bottas. Great to see him back. The competition will love him for that, but Cadillac will not be thinking about winning races. They'll initially be happy with just getting the car to the track. Then they'll be focusing on getting through a race. Sure, they could surprise us. After all, last year they had no salary cap conditions. That's right. They could spend as much money as they could find in their pockets on the car's development. In 20th, I've gone with a Frenchman, Esteban Ocon, driving for Haas. In 19th, Sergio Perez. Of course, he's bringing plenty of money to the team. I've heard it's even more than what he brought to Red Bull. So if there has to be a driver favoured, it's probably going to be Checo, but still expect him to be running around at the back of the field. In 18th, Pierre Gasly. Good driver in a shocker of a car last year, and my money's on the same this year. Last year, Nico Hülkenberg had his first ever podium, and while I love the Audi livery, I can only see Nico in 17th position this year. And at this point, let me address the odds of me picking all 22 cars in the correct order. The chances are astronomical. In fact, it's 22 factorial, 22 times 21 times 20, etc., down to 1. That number is... well, I can't even read that number. Look at it. Last year, the odds of picking the 20 in a row were far better. No one is going to pick the 22 cars in the right order. Even picking the top 3 works out at 1 in 9,240. And if you only pick the drivers from last year's top 12, it's still 1 in 1,728. In 16th, I picked Ollie Behrman. And in 15th, Arvid Lindblad. And while that car will benefit from what I believe will be a good engine with Ford and Red Bull joining forces, the team actually had the VCarb 03 on track the other day in Imola. What I did notice were plenty of comments about that large air intake above the driver's head. Next up, Gabriel Bortoleto. Handy driver, great attitude, hard worker, managed by Fernando Alonso and his management team. I pick Gabriel to come 14th. With Liam Lawson 13th, a full season under his belt, and with more confidence, 13th is achievable. In 12th position, I've gone with Aston Martin driver Lance Stroll. I know they have Adrian Newey designing the car. Maybe it's going to be a world beater, but he finished behind Fernando last year. I think that will be the case again in 2026. That's the slowest half of the field. Now the quickest half of the field, kicking off with Alexander Albon in 11th, not far in front of Lance Stroll. I think they'll be neck and neck. In 10th, Lewis Hamilton. He struggled last year. Now, he does get a new race engineer this year, and I'm not sure how much difference a race engineer makes. And I think Lewis is in for another year like last. And I think if we get to 2/3 the way through the year and Lewis has had another shocker like he had last year, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Ferrari and Lewis part company. But I just can't see Lewis going 30-plus races running around in the midfield. Carlos Sainz, I've got him in at number 9. It took a while for him to get going last year, but 2 race podiums and 1 in the US sprint race certainly lifted his spirits. Colourful character with huge support. 9th for Carlos, and I know that James Vowles has great hopes for his Spanish driver. In 8th, I've gone with Kimi Antonelli. I'm picking the Mercedes engine as the best this year. A reminder too, guys, that if you want to get hold of my photo books, this is the mini coffee table book. There's also a large one. Head to the shop at kimillman.com. Isaac Hadjar, I've got him down as 7th. He'll be in a better car this year, but we'll have to battle with Max. And as Sergio said in a recent interview, At Red Bull, it was a problem if he was faster than Max, and it was a problem if he was slower than Max. But with a podium last year and plenty of talent, I think he'll go all right. But of all of these picks, this is the one that I could be miles off, I reckon. In 6th position, I've gone with Charles Leclerc. Ferrari will struggle this year, like last. Charles proved to be the better of the two drivers last year. He'll once again have plenty of frustration in the Italian team, but he won't be disappointed with the fans. They will be there week in, week out, urging him on. But 6th is honestly the highest that I can see him finishing. Fernando Alonso, I've got him down as 5th. Controversial pick here. Andrew Newey is a genius. Fernando is all class. Yes, he's getting on a bit. What is he, mid-40s? But look, he's still got it. And towards the end of the year, he was certainly having fun in F1. And approaching the end of his career, will this be the year that Fernando notches plenty of podiums? Now at 4th, I've got Lando Norris. Last year's World Drivers' Champion. He's a better driver than he was a few years ago, but I have reservations about the car. There's so much we don't know and probably won't know until qualifying in Melbourne on March the 7th. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I picked Max Verstappen for 2nd this year. Clearly, the best driver on track. But how will the Red Bull car perform? They've lost plenty of top brass at the team over the past year. That leaves me with 2 drivers vying for top position, Oscar Piastri and George Russell. And a reminder again, I did pick last year's winner. So this year, with that behind me, I'm going to go with George Russell for World Drivers' Champion in 2026. In fact, I was so confident, I decided to put a bet on him yesterday without seeing any of the cars on track this year. I wanted to have 1,000 on him, paid 4,000, went onto this site, put 1,000 in, went to back it, and they said, no, we're going to cut you off at $334. Then they dropped the odds to $3.50. So my one bet on that site dropped George's odds to the point where he is now favourite on that particular site. Max is 2nd favourite, and if you have a look at Lewis's odds, he was 33-1. So why am I picking George for the win? I think the engine is going to be the key determinant there. George is a proven winner. I think the car's going to be fast, and we'll know pretty quickly whether or not I'm on money. That left Oscar Piastri in 3rd. Of course, he showed plenty of brilliance last year, faded, and then bounced back in those last couple of races. So I see my Aussie counterpart on the World Drivers' Championship podium in 3rd place. Oh, and what happens if Lewis Hamilton does go towards the end of the year? I think we're all pretty much in agreement that Ollie Behrman would take that spot at Ferrari. That would leave an opening at Haas, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Toyota, who are a major sponsor of Haas, pushed hard for Jack Doohan. They are very keen for Jack to get back into Formula One. What do you think about that? Here's the 22 drivers in the order that I think they'll finish at the end of this season after 24 races. Now let's go to the Constructors Championship. It was won last year by McLaren, and it was won some 6 races out from the end of the year. They streeted the field. They're not going to have it as easy this year. I'm going to start at the bottom. Cadillac, last position. Rookie team, they'll struggle. Alpine, hapless last year, but they have got some experience, so I think they'll finish above Cadillac. Haas, yeah, I just see tough competition ahead. Audi, lots of money, yes. Car looks great, shiny, spectacular, but that doesn't count for much on track. In 7th position, Aston Martin. I think Fernando will be doing the heavy lifting here, and Adrian might well surprise us, and he could end up 3 or 4. Williams, well, they improved massively in 2025. They've moved up the order in the paddock with James Vowles at the head and with Carlos shining. Now, this one I think might be a bit of a stretch, but hey, I'll throw it in there. V-Carb for 5th. Lindblad, Lawson, good-looking car. Let's see. Ferrari, I've got them at 4th. Consistently disappointing. No Drivers' Championship title since Kimi won it back in, 2007, and that's a long time between drinks. I just get the feeling that at that team, it often looks like not everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet. Can they turn that around this year? Now to my top 3, Mercedes. If Kimi does better than I've predicted, they could go higher than that, but I'm happy here, and that leaves 2, McLaren and Red Bull. And last year, McLaren were miles in front of Mercedes and Red Bull. So my pick for the 2026 Constructors Championship is Red Bull, but in a nail-biter from McLaren. My year photographing F1 kicks off in Bahrain, and I'll be there for both the 3-day testing sessions. I am thrilled to see these cars because they are brand new. They are smaller, and I know that we've probably all seen pictures of them on the net, maybe even some video vision, but until I actually get to view them with my own eyes, I can't figure out just how much smaller they are than last year's cars. At this point, it is now your turn to fire up in the comments and hammer me for just about everything I've said here, because no one else will have the same 22 that I have. But remember, it doesn't matter what I think or you think, we have no effect over who's going to win a championship this year. But I am grateful to you for sticking around until the end. And for a whole lot of extra content, check this out. Thanks for watching.
And stay passionate!
Oh, what the f***'s going on there?